The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Just saying the name conjures up an incredible image, doesn't it? A lush green paradise, a mountain of cascading flowers and trees, rising impossibly out of the harsh Mesopotamian desert. An ancient wonder of the world built by a king for his queen. It's a story we all think we know. But what if I told you that the Hanging Gardens of Babylon might be the greatest historical mystery of all time? What if the most romantic of the seven wonders never even existed? We all know the legend. Around 600 BC, the great king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, Nebuchadnezzar II, took a wife named Amytis. She came from the mountainous green lands of Media, and the flat, sun-baked plains of Babylon made her desperately homesick. So being a powerful king and a loving husband, Nebuchadnezzar ordered the construction of a breathtaking masterpiece to comfort her. A terraced structure, like a man-made mountain, was covered in exotic plants, watered by an ingenious system that lifted water from the Euphrates River high into the air. A verdant spectacle visible for miles around. An engineering marvel and a testament to love? It's a beautiful story. The only problem, we've never found a single shred of proof that it's true. This is the core of the mystery. Archaeologists have been digging at the site of ancient Babylon in modern-day Iraq for over a century. They have uncovered incredible things: the foundations of massive city walls, the stunning Ishtar Gate, and even the ziggurat that might have inspired the story of the Tower of Babel. They have found tens of thousands of cuneiform tablets, the official records of the Babylonian Empire, detailing everything from grain rations to legal disputes. But among all these extensive excavations and records, there is a deafening silence. There is absolutely no physical evidence for the Hanging Gardens. No foundations, no remnants of a massive terrace structure, no trace of the sophisticated irrigation systems that would have been necessary. Even more telling, Nebuchadnezzar himself, a king who loved to boast about his building projects, never once mentions the gardens. We have his inscriptions carved in stone where he brags about rebuilding temples, fortifying the city walls, and constructing his grand palace. He describes his achievements in painstaking detail. You would think that building a giant plant-covered mountain in the middle of the desert for his queen would be his proudest accomplishment, something he would shout from the rooftops. Yet, in all of his own writings, there is not a single word about any gardens. It's as if from the Babylonian perspective, they didn't exist. So if the Babylonians never wrote about them, where did the story come from? The fascinating answer is the Greeks. Our primary accounts of the Hanging Gardens come from Greek historians who wrote centuries after the gardens were supposedly built and after Babylon itself had been conquered. Writers like Berossus, a Babylonian priest who moved to Greece, and later historians like Diodorus, Siculus, and Strabo are the ones who gave us these vivid descriptions. The key thing to remember is that none of these men ever saw the gardens themselves. They were recounting stories and legends they had heard passed down through generations. They were essentially repeating historical gossip, and as we all know, stories can change quite a bit in the telling over a few hundred years. This lack of local evidence has led many historians and archaeologists to a radical and compelling alternative theory. What if the legend of the Hanging Gardens is real, but the location is wrong? What if the gardens weren't in Babylon at all? The leading candidate for the real Hanging Gardens lies about 300 miles north. In the city of Nineveh, the capital of Babylon's bitter rival, the Assyrian Empire. And the king who built them wasn't Nebuchadnezzar, but a powerful Assyrian ruler named Sennacherib, who reigned about a century earlier. Why Nineveh? Well, unlike in Babylon, we have found astonishing evidence in Nineveh that perfectly matches the descriptions of a magnificent, irrigated garden. The most compelling piece of proof comes from King Sennacherib himself. In his own royal inscriptions, he describes in great detail his palace, which he called his palace without a rival. He boasts of creating a wonder for all peoples. He describes planting a vast park with all kinds of aromatic plants and fruit trees from across his empire. And most importantly, he details how he watered this garden. Sennacherib tells us he constructed a massive and complex system of canals, stretching over 50 miles to bring fresh water from the mountains. He built dams and reservoirs. The crown jewel of his system was an enormous aqueduct. This wasn't just a simple channel. It was a monumental structure made of over 2 million stones. Using arches and waterproof cement to carry water across a valley to his palace at Nineveh. And here's the kicker. Archaeologists have found the ruins of this incredible aqueduct. It's still there. We can see it. We also have reliefs from Sennacherib's palace that actually depict his gardens. They show a lush terraced landscape, rich with trees, situated on a hill next to his palace, with water flowing through it. It looks exactly like the popular image of the Hanging Gardens. So how did this Assyrian wonder get misplaced and attributed to Babylon? The answer likely lies in the confusion of empires. By the time Greek historians started writing these stories, the Assyrian Empire had long since fallen, sacked, and destroyed by the Babylonians themselves. Nineveh was a ruin. Babylon, however, was legendary, was the most famous, most powerful, and most decadent city in the entire region, a symbol of Eastern wealth and power. It's plausible that as stories of a magnificent garden in Mesopotamia circulated, later writers, unfamiliar with the region's complex history, simply attached the tale to the most famous city they knew, Babylon. Over time, the Assyrian king Sennacherib was forgotten, and the more famous Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar took his place in the story. Nineveh became Babylon. A historical mix-up on a legendary scale. Even if we were to ignore the Nineveh theory and assume the gardens were in Babylon, we face another massive problem: the sheer engineering challenge. How do you get enough water to the top of a 75-foot-high structure in the middle of a hot, dry climate to keep a forest alive? The Euphrates River was nearby, but it was at ground level. You would need a machine capable of lifting thousands of gallons of water per day, continuously. The Greek writers mentioned some kind of screw-like device, possibly an early version of the Archimedes screw. But the Archimedes screw wasn't invented until centuries later. Other theories suggest a large water wheel or a bucket chain system powered by people or animals working in shifts, day and night. It's an immense logistical problem, and again, we found no archaeological evidence, no foundations for such a machine, nowhere patterns on stone, nothing to suggest such a device ever existed in Babylon. This leads to a third, more poetic possibility. What if the Hanging Gardens were never a real physical place at all? What if they were simply a literary invention, a beautiful myth? For the ancient Greeks, the East, places like Babylon and Persia, was a land of unimaginable luxury, exoticism, and wonder. It was a place where kings had absolute power and could make the impossible possible. The Hanging Gardens, a lush paradise built in a barren desert, is the perfect symbol of that fantasy. It's possible that the stories were never meant to be taken as literal history, but as a kind of poetic expression, a fable about the boundless power and wealth of the East. The story might have been inspired by real, but much smaller, Mesopotamian gardens, and then exaggerated over time into the grand legend we know today. So, while Nebuchadnezzar II probably didn't build the Hanging Gardens, we shouldn't discount his legacy. He was a truly great builder. He's the one responsible for the glorious Ishtar Gate. It's covered in brilliant blue-glazed bricks and images of dragons and bulls, which you can see today in a museum in Berlin. He built the massive double walls that encircled Babylon so wide that a chariot could supposedly do a U-turn on top. These were real wonders, impressive enough to inspire legends all on their own. In the end, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon remain the most enigmatic of all the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It's the only one whose very existence is still a matter of intense debate. Was it a real wonder, built by an Assyrian king in Nineveh, its story later stolen by Babylon? Was it a breathtaking engineering feat in Babylon that has been completely lost to time, leaving not a single trace? Or was it just a beautiful idea, a poetic myth of a paradise on earth that never truly was? Perhaps the mystery is what makes it so enduring. The Hanging Gardens exist perfectly in our imagination, a lush green phantom of history, forever hanging between myth and reality. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the mysteries of the ancient world, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the past. See you next time.